everybody. Welcome to week 2 of the NFL season, episode 2 of the Gustavo Cup Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Sean Ballek, and your co-host,
in Siddiqi. We are back again, week 2. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great, man. I mean, not so great about the fantasy football season so far, but I'm enjoying recording these podcasts. It's fun.
Absolutely. It's super fun. And most importantly, football is back, man. And I think we had some great games this week to really represent football, why we're such big fans. Banger
Yeah,
on
like
Monday night.
banger on Saturday night.
Sunday night. Oh, you're talking about
Welcome
your
Horns, baby.
Texas Longhorns. Got it. Dude, I last week's podcast I definitely called them out. I said there was no way you guys are going to beat Bama. And at the end of that game, I was cheering for Texas. Not only because you're a fan, but because who doesn't love an underdog and who doesn't hate Bama?
Yeah, and well, I don't hate Bama. I like Nick Saban actually, but watching the UT quarterback just throw dimes all night was pretty awesome. Ooh,
Yeah.
update: Darren Waller has a nerve issue.
Oh, okay.
That's coming
That is an
from
update.
Bleacher Report, so I don't know how. I mean, Bleacher Report's fairly reliable.
Bleacher Report is fairly reliable. Is it only coming from Bleacher? Let me
That
take a quick look.
I just saw it pop up on my phone as we're recording here. But let's jump into what are you drinking tonight? I'm drinking a ranch water. I got some 512 tequila, some lime juice, and some Topo Chico.
I wish I had a ranch water right now, but I'm having to go deep into the desk cabinet today because as we prepare for a baby, I'm starting to get rid of a lot of my alcohol in the house. But busting out the white henny, got a half a bottle left. So let's do a quick little shot of the pure white henny.
Okay.
Salute.
Cheers.
Oh, and that kind of segues into the attire for this week. We got the throwback from 2019, definitely a little bit tighter than the way it fits in 2019. But this is a Kyle Kiesel who wants to trade a draft pick as he holds the eggplant fish.
The eggplant fish. Yeah, I decided to throw on the. I wanted to remind you that you called out UT, and we're like, y'all aren't going to cover. Y'all aren't even going to cover the 7 points.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, last week's podcast was over an hour long before I edited it. Let's jump into it because we got a lot to cover, and let's try to
Okay,
keep it, at a reasonable length this week. So
I
let's start off
agree.
with the recap.
Okay, Let's do the recap.
We had some really great matchups this week. For example, we have a Browse team here that's being managed by Mark going against Evan. It's one of the teams that one of the matchups that I ended up picking on. I had Mark going. He ended up getting the W. I think that for Evan, Burrow definitely underperformed. 3 fantasy points. That's unexpected. I think that that's definitely an outlier. I expect Burrow to make a bounce back. He typically does start seasons fairly slow. I had T. Higgins going last week, so I definitely felt some of the pain of the Cincinnati offense deflating against the Browns. Also, Charbonnet with Seattle only put up a buck point 10 for Evan. So it's not to say that he doesn't have a good team. I think that it just grossly underperformed. A couple of things that I want to highlight to kind of pay attention to. He does have a really young team with Robinson, Charbonnet, Garrett Wilson. Also, Garrett Wilson's now going to be playing with Zach Wilson, and so we're expecting, obviously, for him to be playing with Aaron Rodgers. One of the saddest quotes I've seen in a minute was when Aaron Rodgers was coming off the field, he looked at Garrett Wilson and said, "Sorry, kid." And I was like, yeah, like that kind of got me in the feels because, this may be it for, one of the all-time legends at the quarterback position with Aaron Rodgers. I was hoping, for at least a season or two for him to match up with those young wide receivers up in New York, but unfortunately, we know how it played out on Sunday.
Yeah, that was brutal. You got to think Garrett Wilson would have had a much better game than he almost hit his projections, but you got to think he would have had a better game than 5 receptions for 34 yards and a touchdown. If Rodgers was in that whole game, Rodgers got hurt on play 3 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, rough injury there, and I think Garrett Wilson's still going to be good. He's a really good football player, but it just limits his potential. Joe Burrow, as you mentioned, he always seems to start the season coming back from injury and always starts it off slow. Charbonnet only had 3 carries. I don't know where you go from there on that. And Bijan Robinson, I told you, stud, man.
Oh, he's an absolute stud. It's interesting to see the running back by committee down in Atlanta, how that's going to play out. We talked about him being 3 on the depth chart last week. He's clearly the number 1 guy there, but carries are getting splitted. Carries are being split, so we'll see how that plays out. On the flip side, we got Mr. Marky Mark. Or did you have a point? Sorry.
Yeah, well, I picked Evan in that one, so I took an L on that one on the pick'em. But I was going to jump into Bizzo's team being managed by Mark and Brandon Ayuk, who you predicted to have a good game, went off. 129 yards, 2 touchdowns, 8 receptions, and that really kind of just rocketed Mark or Bizzo to the win. That was a quarter of his points right there.
Absolutely, yeah. Bizzo's team looks really, really good out there. I think that there were a couple of positions, a couple of players that underperformed, but I think overall, his team is solid. One of the things that I wanted to zero in on was going to be that running back versus running back matchup with Charbonnet versus Walker. I wasn't sure who was going to get the majority of the carries between the two. As we saw, Walker, not by many, by 1, did have more rushing attempts, but Walker had a lot more production catching out of the backfield.
Walker had 12 rushing attempts, where Charbonnet only had 3.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that stat correction.
He had 9 more.
Yeah, so I think that on Evan's side, he may need to, look at, do a deep dive into the running back committee in Seattle and determine if Charbonnet needs to be in that starting lineup moving forward.
I think he grabbed somebody off of waivers, and I think he got Justice Hill for the Ravens off of waivers.
Gotcha. Good to know.
Yep. All right, let's jump into this next matchup.
Yeah, so this week I got absolutely destroyed by Mishlov's team, 2 Jags, 1 Cup. Main takeaways, the team just underperformed, right? T. Higgins putting up a goose egg. As I spoke a little bit about Burrow having slow starts to the season, especially coming off of injury. And that obviously kind of played a part with Higgins putting up that goose egg. Highlight, though, 8 targets. Going back, looking at all of those throws, maybe 1, 2 were catchable. So 6 balls that came his direction were not catchable. I don't think it's an issue of production from Higgins. I think that the offense just isn't clicking just yet. However, surprised I haven't had a lot of trade offers come in just yet. Got one from you trying to trade Higgins for Cooper head up, obviously declining that trade. I'm going to play it out. I'm going to see how Higgins does. Josh Allen on Monday night, 3 interceptions, a fumble, and a loss, which is probably out of all of those things the worst, especially under the bright lights. I know that the Jets defense is very, very good. So my thing is just a product of playing a very, very good defense, or is there something else going on with Allen? So a lot of things I need to figure out this week. In addition, left a lot of points on the bench. And then, I got to give credit where credit is due. And Mishlov's team definitely went off. Lawrence and Ridley, that combo is going to be deadly as the season progresses. I think that we're going to hear Lawrence to Ridley quite a lot. St. Brown also started Thursday night off last week, right? I think that Mishlov does have a good team. I lost this pick. Obviously, I picked myself, and Mishlov ended up becoming the winner. So that's 1-1 for me in terms of my picks from last week.
Yeah, I lost this pick as well. I thought Josh Allen would come through, and he disappointed. I don't know what's going on with him. Just needs to throw it to Stephon Diggs more. That's the only guy that seems to want to catch the football out there. So just keep targeting him. And I mean, they did it on the last drive to drive down there and tie up the game, and then he got to overtime and nothing. I don't know what they're thinking there. As you mentioned, T. Higgins goose for you. I don't know. You got to keep an eye on that. You can't have too many of those.
Got to keep an eye on that.
Spot on the Christian McCaffrey call. You said you'd be disappointed if he went under 20. He went 27, 152, and a touchdown with 17 receiving yards. It's a big game. Yeah, the rest of your guys were kind of at or below the projections. How are you feeling about Jawan Johnson still? I noticed you didn't make a move, but he put up 5 points.
It kept me up, honestly, because there were some tight ends out there on the waiver wire that had some big games. I think that, and this is just coming out of the New Orleans, like their coaching staff. Carr said it himself that if he was a betting man, he would bet on Johnson. In fact, he told his brother, he said, "Listen,
here we go.
Johnson."
Hold on, let me stop you here. Steven just dropped. It was just defense. He just picked up a defense and dropped his old defense. Sorry.
I was hoping for a trade offer from Wiggins, but going back to Johnson. So Carr told his brother, he said, "Listen, in your fantasy football league this year, pick up Jawan Johnson. Trust me." So I think that the chemistry is going to continue to build. I'm not mad with the 5 targets, 3 receptions, 36 yards. You know what? I'm gonna ride it out a little bit longer. I do want to highlight my rookie out in Minnesota, Addison. 14 points, 1 touchdown, 4 receptions, 61 yards. Looked good, right? Fresh young legs, looked really good. This may not come as a surprise, but I think he makes his way into the lineup this week.
Yeah, I could see it. You looking Javonte or Pacheco or, Mike Williams or T. Higgins? Okay.
Yeah, we got
some to think about there.
A lot to think about.
And then, as you mentioned, for Mishlov's team, his team just really put up a solid week. Ridley and St. Brown really anchored it and came up with some big performances.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and
let's move on to the next one. We got so me versus Jeremy is the next matchup. To recap, I picked myself and took a big L on that one. Jeremy had Tyreek Hill put up 42 points. Gonna crush pretty much anybody they play against.
Cheetah.
The rest of Jeremy's team, some of them hit their numbers, but he had Geno only put up 11, Dallas Goedert goose egg. So it wasn't like other than that Tyreek Hill, I was really in the matchup. And then I had Daniel Jones, unfortunately, who put up 4 points for me. The Dallas defense just beat him up. And the rest of my team kind of just put up Stephon Diggs had a big game. The rest of my team just kind of hit their numbers. Amari Cooper fell a little shy. A couple guys fell a little shy, but the rest of my team did solid. I had that big kicker performance.
Big kicker performance. For someone that's not a kicker fan, Elliott putting up 17, the second highest score on your team right behind Diggs. Are you still has that adjusted or changed your opinion of kickers?
No, I don't care. They're so dumb. Like every time I turn on a game, I never want to see a field goal. I never want to see them punt. Just make them go for it on fourth down.
Right. Even if they're on, their own 5 yard line, go for it on fourth down. Do
And
not
throw a
use
bomb. Throw a bomb. Make a good pick. Call that the punt. Like
or
just
punt the
or
ball or just punt the ball.
or change the rules. Just make them start at the other 20. The kickers are just so pointless.
So I want to point out a few things with this matchup. Number one, yeah, Tyreek Hill absolutely went off. But Goddard putting up that goose egg, is a little bit scary. Goddard's predicted to be a top 5 tight end, and that Philadelphia offense is supposed to be one of the best in the league. Obviously, they made a run to the Super Bowl last year. Goddard played a huge part in that. Is that something that we need to kind of take a closer look at? Is Goddard what's going on there? So I think that Jeremy definitely has a lot to think about. Something that
I think it's okay there. I was watching that game and they just weren't sustaining drives. They they would hand the ball off, throw an incompletion, complete it short of the first down, and punt it away. They jumped up early, like real early. They were like 16 nothing or something like that, and they just couldn't put anything together after that. I wouldn't be too concerned yet. I mean, obviously, anytime somebody gooses, it's something to be concerned about. But I wouldn't be too concerned with Goddard just yet. And then the other bullet point on Jeremy's team, J.K. Dobbins, a really unfortunate Achilles tear, and that it just sucks for that guy. That guy came back from a brutal knee injury a couple years ago, was finally looking really good, and then it has this happen, and I don't know if that guy ever comes back from this.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It is really unfortunate. I want to give some love to Mr. Love down in Green Bay. Hope
Oh, down on
that
Jeremy's
wasn't
bench,
yeah, I hope that wasn't too corny. But
it was pretty corny.
it's uh, well, given the circumstances, the fact 30 points on the bench is unfortunate with Gino putting up 11. But I think this guy's for real. I think that Green Bay has done something that no other franchise has done, which has jumped from one Hall of Fame quarterback immediately into another Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean, and then potentially immediately into another very, very good quarterback. So I think that I'm excited to watch his progression. I think he has some good young talent around him, and I watched a little bit of that Chicago Green Bay game, and that's obviously a rivalry game. They were in Soldier Field, and they actually, they absolutely gave it to him. So I'm excited to watch this young Green Bay team.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I just got Romeo Dubs off the waivers today.
Nice, cool.
Okay.
So
Next
with that in
matchup, we
mind,
got Ralph versus Kyle.
cool. All
Ralph
right.
versus Kyle. I have a couple notes here. Ralph had a lot of players just disappoint. It hurts. Like I said, they just couldn't sustain a drive. He had Jamar Chase in that same game with Burrow. Um, it's like his whole team, just Godwin, Jacobs, none of them hit their mark except for Mike Evans. And even Mike Evans dropped a touchdown pass. I don't know if you saw that. So Ralph just had a really rough week. I think his team bounces back. Kyle's team didn't didn't do great, but they were matched up against Ralph. So I mean, Fields just slightly better than Hurts. DJ Moore only 2 receptions for 25 yards. He did have these two running backs that did really well, Eckler and Etienne, but Eckler now has an ankle injury, so we'll see what happens there. And then that's oh, I picked Ralph on this one, so that's another L for me on the pick'em.
Yeah, so Ralph obviously A+ at the draft according to Yahoo. I think he had the highest projected total going into the week, and he put up the least, second to least amount of points with 77 this week. Team really just let him down. Cincinnati. I don't personally don't think it's too concerning. They start slow, as we've said multiple times. I think that Jamar Chase is going to have a great season, just starting slow, and then across the board, his team just underperformed. Even his bench underperformed. Gallup, Kincaid, Watson had did what we expected him to do. Dylan. So I'm hoping Ralph's team can bounce back. I think Ralph knows what he's doing. He knows how to handle a team. So I think he's going to get the guys going this week. Kyle's right where he typically is, which is that purgatory area, that sixth place, right? Even though he got the win this week, only putting up 93 points. So he's at the bottom of the pack in terms of the winners. I think his team underperformed as well. I'm surprised Waddle didn't get more of all of that action in that Chargers Miami game. Eckler definitely put up his numbers as we expected. Etienne as well. We'll see how the health goes with those two guys. San Fran D did their thing. Not a fireworks matchup, but I think the guys, overall, Kyle pulled out the win, and good matchup. Good matchup.
Yeah, I called out DJ Moore for his two receptions and 25 yards. I should probably call out Christian Kirk for his one reception and 9 yards. Just just rough week for Kyle. Even though not a rough week, he got the win. That's all you want.
He got the win, right? Got the win at the end of it.
Yeah. So and then the last recap, we got Nick and Steven. Nick's team. I picked Nick. Took an L on this one. Another team that just every single player just didn't come up with their production. Lamar just looked. I don't even know. They had a weird game. They got up early. They lost J.K. Dobbins. He was without Mark Andrews. So I don't know what happened with Lamar. I don't know. I didn't watch that game, so I don't know if he was out the second half or what. But 169 yards passing, 39 yards rushing, wasn't involved in any of the scores. So obviously Lamar can bounce back from that. Lamar's a great football player. But all the way up and down, I mean, Debo, CeeDee Lamb, Barkley, all of them missed their projections. I expect Nick's team to come back from that and come back and have a good week next week. And then Steven, just some of his players hit their projections, and that's how Steven won. Mahomes got close. He had Devontae Smith, who was probably the only Eagle that had a good game. Nick Chubb hit his mark. Yeah, other than that, it was another one of those low-scoring matchups, 70-94.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Nick's team, obviously pretty apparent, grossly underperformed. Only double-digit player coming in Jacksonville as defense. It's a bad week when your defense is your top scorer, unless you were Dallas last week, because 37 is not bad. But overall, I think that Nick's team's definitely going to make a bounce back. He has solid players, right? CeeDee Lamb, a lot of the underproduction with CeeDee Lamb was because the defense did so well, and they were just running the ball.
They didn't need to throw the ball.
They didn't need to throw the ball. But
he also lost Deontay Johnson. Nick's team lost Deontay Johnson, hamstring injury. Hopefully he recovers quickly, but it looked pretty bad.
Yeah. The main thing with that Dallas Giants game is that the Giants need to throw the ball because they were so far behind. So that took Barkley out of the picture. And Dallas, because they were up by so much, were running the ball. So that took Lamb out of the picture. We really wanted to switch those roles there for Nick's team to really see the dividends of that. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. Algier on the bench, going back towards talking about that running back by committee in Atlanta, Robinson, Algier, something to definitely look at. On Wiggins' team, I'm surprised he didn't put Mayers in the lineup, right? He's a Raiders guy. He didn't make the cut. And he had a great week, almost 35 or almost 25 points. So we'll see if he makes some adjustments to his lineup this week.
I mean, he had some good receivers in there, Tyler Lockett and Devontae Smith. And then from what I heard is Myers had a pretty bad concussion, was
I see.
like knocked out on the field. So I would expect. Let's see what his update is. Yeah, still in concussion protocol. So I wouldn't expect him to be playing this week. So I would expect Steven to leave him on the bench, possibly throw him on the IR. And then
Yeah,
Brees Hall
absolutely.
had a big game on his bench, but as you know, you don't get credit for those points.
Well, if we voted in my proposition that I proposed over summer, once a year, we have the ability to take someone from the bench, plug them into the starting role. I think that that's something that I'm going to continue to push as the years progress. I think that once a year, we should have that one caveat, that one do-over. But maybe I'll convince some more guys next year when voting comes around.
Good luck with that.
Awesome. Uh, now to go to a matchup last week that I really enjoyed, and that is Mike Medina versus Mr. Mark, one of our rookies. And to join us this week, our special guest. You want to do the honors of introducing him?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and introduce him. Top point scorer for last week, Mike Medina.
Mike
Welcome aboard,
Medina.
Mike.
Awesome. So it's great to have Mike on the podcast this week. He obviously was our little intro for Mike there. Thanks for joining.
Yeah.
Welcome aboard, Mike.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's an honor to be here as the first guest. I think I'm the first guest, so unless somebody else called in before me. But
no, you are the first guest.
Nice.
Absolutely. Definitely the first guest. And I think putting up 157 in week 1, you absolutely deserve to be the first guest today.
That was unexpected, to be honest. So it was quite surprising because I think I started the weekend off pretty bad with London. I think he had an early game, if I remember right. So he put up a big 0. And for a while there, I thought Mark was going to beat me. So I got super lucky with, my big 3 going off. And then Dallas had a freaking crazy night. And then Tua played well. So we'll see if this keeps up. I'm not overly confident that this will happen every night, but it was good to get that first one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we both picked you to beat Mark, so that wasn't a surprise to us. But the 157 was a big surprise.
Yeah.
Tua went off, Pollard went off, Aaron Jones. I mean, a lot of your players just went off with, like you already mentioned, the exception of Drake London, who put up a 0 on 1 target. How are you feeling about him? I see you didn't make any moves on the waiver wire this week, so you must be pretty confident with your team.
Yeah, overall, I'm pretty confident. Definitely the receivers could probably be better, but week 1, you never know. It could be a fluke, and I guess after next week I'll know better. But right now I'm not going to make any moves. I don't think so.
Yeah, that's a good call. It's a good call. I think you have the best running back core in the league with Henry, Jones, and then Pollard in your flex. The fact that we have the ability, to actually have 3 running backs this year with that flex position is definitely paying dividends for you. And then having Dallas.
Ballek freaking was telling me that all night on draft night. He was like all pissed off because I took 3 in a row right off the bat. So
yeah, because you were picking right after me, so you at the turn. So every time it went around, you would go take the running backs, and I'd be like, "Well, there's no running backs left for me."
Yeah.
Yeah, but you absolutely demolished Mr. Mark, one of our rookies this year. Even if we put a little asterisk next to Dallas because they're not doing that every week, you still put up 120 with a 0 from London. So your team absolutely went off, double digits pretty much across the board, minus your tight end and your kicker. But yeah, great showing. So what are you looking forward to in week 2 with your matchup coming up against? Let's see, who do you have? Who are you playing?
I actually play Bizzo's team.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
So let's see. I haven't done a lot of research this week.
No worries.
I think I did bench Drake London, and I have a feeling I'm going to end up benching him. So hopefully, if Mark's hearing this, uh, he's probably not
Cool.
going to be in my starting lineup. But let me look at my roster here.
Yeah, it looks like
Yeah.
you did bench Drake London. You got Aaron Jones and Darren Waller both questionable, and you weren't on yet. But as Ian and I were getting started, a update came that Darren Waller may have nerve damage or some kind of nerve issue.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I had him last year, man, and I think he missed like half the season. So I was super hesitant to draft him, and I did because I thought it was a different scenery, but that sucks. Hopefully, well, that sucks. If he doesn't play, then I'm probably going to end up dropping him, to be honest. It's
Okay.
Yeah, Waller.
either that or Kyler Murray. I don't know.
Yeah, despite the showing the Giants had against Dallas last week, I think that Waller was actually, kind of a bright spot in terms of his target percentage, in terms of his production, run after the catch. So I like Waller. Let's hope this nerve damage, whatever's going on with him, isn't something that's going to sustain permanent damage or keep him out for too long.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
hopefully Aaron Jones suits up too. I mean, I saw he like tweaked his hamstring, right? So
Yeah,
there was
on a
like a video
touchdown
of
run.
him doing some stretches on the sideline where he like threw up a peace sign. So I hope he's all right. If not, then I'll probably have to figure something out.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, probably have to start one of your receivers. Does Yahoo not let you put Kyler Murray on the IR, Mike?
I thought we made a rule where it was because I thought the rule was that basically you're only allowed to use the IR if the player was already on your team and gets injured while he's on your team.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
there we
that's
go.
why I have not put him on. But if the rule is not that, then I guess I could and pick somebody up. But I think whoever has, I'm drawing a blank here, but the running back that's on the injured list for the Colts.
Oh, Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah, so somebody drafted him. I'm sure he's not on the IR either, right?
I think
No,
he is,
so
but he wasn't
he's not
on the
hurt.
IR when he got drafted, so I don't think that should count personally.
But
But
whoever has him doesn't have him on the injured reserve, I guess, in their roster spot. At least
think
I
he
hope
does.
not.
I think he's just in limbo in purgatory while he tries to find a team.
Oh no, he doesn't. He doesn't have him on the IR. There we go. Evan.
Yeah.
Evan doesn't have him on the IR there.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Trust me, I was doing my research, and I think the only person that's using the IR so far is Mishloff. So
I used
Cooper
him
Kupp,
in week one
correct?
for Mark Andrews, but now he's questionable again, so I had to pull him off of there.
So you put Mark Andrews on IR before he was on IR?
No, the second that they called him out, I threw him on the IR spot.
Is that legal?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the actual when you can put him on the IR. As soon as there's an O next to his name that he's out, you can put him on the IR.
So I'm playing against Kyle this week. Kickers score points too. I mean, to be honest, I just think I'm going to demolish him. I'm projected about $110. He's projected about 104. I think that Allen is going to have a bounce back game. Playing against Vegas, being at home, I think he's gonna have a big game. That Vegas secondary isn't very good. He's gonna shred him up. Higgins, I think, is going to be on a tear this week with Burrow and Chase as well. I think that Baltimore is going to be zeroing in on Chase. That's going to open things up for Higgins. And I think that Cincinnati has too much grit to repeat what occurred in week one. We know that the Chargers offense is ringing. Mike Williams is going to pay dividends, is going to get dividends from that. McCaffrey, I expect to repeat. And we'll see. I have some exciting players on my bench. I think that there will be some movement on my team this week. Addison may be in the starting lineup. I like the way Rice played as well for KC, the rookie. So we'll see. There's definitely going to be some things that change this week. On with Kyle's team, I like Fields as a fantasy football player. I don't think that the Bears are going to do much this year. Eckler, we'll see if he ends up playing. Overall, I'm going to pick myself here to win.
Okay, understood. Yeah, I don't blame you for picking yourself. Yeah, I'm looking at to see if Josh Allen and T. Higgins can have bounce backs from some pretty bad games this past week. I'm also looking at your running back, not Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is a mainstay there. Um, the guy's awesome. But Isaiah Pacheco was really disappointing last week. Chiefs aren't a team that want to run the ball. So I'm kind of looking at that as well. And then, yeah, looking at your defense or your bench and seeing who you might plug in there, Jordan Addison, Elijah Moore, Terry McLaurin. You get a lot of options, all receivers, but you got a lot of options there to plug somebody in. So I'll be paying attention to who you decide to start. And then on Kyle's side, I think it's really going to depend on Austin Eckler and that injury. If Austin Eckler plays, I think he's got a good shot. If Austin Eckler doesn't play, I mean, he's looking at starting Gus Edwards or Dalvin Cook. I think that's gonna be a rough start to his week if he ends up having to start one of those.
Based off of your waiver wire action, you think that Eckler isn't playing, right? As if I saw correctly, you picked up Kelly.
I picked up Kelly because if Eckler doesn't play, Kelly is the best pickup. And anytime there's somebody like Eckler that goes down and their backup's available, especially after they just had a really good game, I think I'm going to take the shot on him. And I don't have any running backs. My running back room is pretty shallow. So I think that's a pretty good pickup for me. But yeah, I don't think. I mean, today they said that he had an ankle injury / personal day off. I don't know what that means. These injury reports are getting a little bit shadier and shadier as we go along. But I'm going to pick you as well.
Nice. All right, let's hop over to the matchup between you and the Bridge crew, Mr. Mark. It should be a fun matchup. Let's see. I don't think you're going to keep Jones in your starting lineup. I think there may be some movement there, even though he is playing a horrible Arizona team. I think that you might shake things up. Obviously, you got Eckler on the bench. We'll see what happens if you're going to plug in Kelly or not. I think that your receiving core, I said this last week, you have a great receiving core with Diggs, Adams, Cooper. We just need them to you need them to actually perform. Mark's side, I think that Flowers, Baltimore rookie, looked great. Gibbs showed just some flashes of just being a great runner out of the backfield, super shifty. And then Olave, New Orleans, obviously is living up to his potential. Him and Carr seem to have some great chemistry. So I'm excited to see how that plays out. Overall, I am going to take your team this week. I think that your receiving core is going to come up big. I think Diggs and Josh Allen are going to come up big against the Las Vegas Raiders. We'll see. And then obviously Robinson as well. I think you're going to have a great week.
Yeah, I hope so. As of now, I'm sticking with Daniel Jones. You don't take a beat down like you did last week and not come out firing the next week. So I think he's going to come out and he's going to have something to prove against a really bad team. So I'm currently leaning towards sticking with Daniel Jones. Now I might get in my own head a little bit later on in the week and change my mind on some things, but currently I'm sticking with him. Diggs.
I think Purdy's still available. I think Purdy's available.
Purdy's available. There's a couple other players that are available that might be better options, but like I said, you got somebody coming off an absolute beat down where he was embarrassed, and he's going to want something to prove against a really bad team. So I think I'm going to stick with Daniel Jones this week. My running back room, as you know, shallow. Devontae Adams, I don't know what happened to him. He's on the injury report with a foot issue. Nothing happened during the game, so I don't know if that's a practice thing. And Mark Andrews was already on there. I don't know what to do with Cam Akers. Sitting on my bench.
I
Cam
literally
Akers
called this last week.
Yes, you did. But looking at Mark's team, Herbert against Tennessee, it's probably going to go off. Justin Jefferson's always, number one draft pick overall. So you expect him to hit his mark. Jahmyr Gibbs, the coach is saying that they're going to slowly work him more and more into it. So we'll see how that goes. Last week, David Montgomery outperformed him. So I'm going to hopefully I can get that advantage again. And then the rest of our teams match up pretty well. We both have injured tight ends. We both have number one receivers down in our flex. So I feel pretty good. And I'm picking myself.
Nice. Talking about the Daniel Jones beatdown in Dallas last week. First play, what are you calling? What are Giants? First play out of the gate, first offensive drive. What are you calling as the Giants offensive coordinator against Arizona?
I'm calling a screen pass to Saquon Barkley.
Nice. I like that. I'm calling play action fake to Barkley, post deep ball, trying to take the hat off the thing. If you really want to make a statement after a beatdown, throw the long ball. First play of the game.
No, man.
Let's see what happens.
No, man. Throw some short passes. Get your confidence up.
Throw a screen. Get your confidence up. We'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Next on the list, we have Mishlov's team going against Wiggins, Stevens' team. Matchup between our 3 and 5. Both of them had great weeks last week.
2-1-0 teams.
Yeah, it's gonna be 2 1-0 teams. We have Lawrence going against KC, and we have Mahomes going against Jacksonville. So it's gonna be a fun matchup. I hope these guys get together and watch this KC Jacksonville game together. I think whoever has the better game out of these two quarterbacks, that team will win. So that kind of leads to my pick. I think that the Lawrence Ridley connection is going to pay dividends for Schloff. So I'm going to take his team this week. I think Stevenson is going to continue to progress with that rebuilt offensive line in New England. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and take Schloff this week.
All right. You're taking Schloff this week. I really like Schloff's team. He's got that stack with Lawrence and Ridley. Got St. Brown. He's got Dameon Pierce going against Indianapolis. So I really like Schloff's team, especially this week. He picked up Hunter Henry off of the waiver wire. Hunter Henry had a big week last week. So let's see. And Steven's team, tough to count out Patrick Mahomes ever, right?
Very true.
Tyler Lockett got injured last week, came back. Hopefully he's okay and he can come back and have a good year. I really like Tyler Lockett. The rest of Steven's team's pretty good too. Devontae Smith, Nick Chubb, all of them are really good players. He is a little shallow at running back because with the Breece Hall coming back from injury, he didn't want to start him. So we'll see if he moves Breece Hall in there. Who are they playing? They're playing Dallas. That's a rough matchup for Breece to try to move Breece Hall into your starting lineup. Kittle was. What happened to Kittle last week?
Nothing happened to Kittle. He's just, well, first off, Kittle is the best blocking tight end in the league. Not the best receiving tight end, not the best route running tight end, but he does the intangibles, right? He's going to go head up with your top linebackers, your top DNs. He's going to block his ass off.
All right. Well, that's not what Steven drafted him for.
I know, but Purdy's going to find him. But unfortunately, he's looking like the third, fourth option in San Fran now, behind Debo, CMC, and Brandon now. So, this is, while I love Kittle as personality, Love him as a player. He does the intangibles. He's not the number one, number two option anymore in San Fran.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Schloff this week. I think if I don't know what's going on with Kelsey. I saw he was still questionable. If I knew he was playing for sure, I think I might go with Steven, but I'm gonna go with Schloff.
Nice call. Yeah. What was I gonna say? Wiggins doesn't have Kelsey.
No, he has Mahomes. And you saw what it looks like
gotcha.
Mahomes throwing to people without
Yeah.
Kelsey in the lineup.
Gotcha.
What they
I
have
was
like
like, what?
7 drop passes.
Yeah, it was fucking. That was hard to watch.
It was terrible.
All right, who's next? And just like I predicted, looking at this Jeremy and Ralph matchup, Love is in the lineup. I knew that Jeremy wasn't going to give Gino that much wiggle room on the leash, so he's already hit the bench against Detroit's defense. We saw what they did to Mahomes last week. I don't blame him at all. Love going against Atlanta in the dome. I like that move there. And, we can never count out Hill, Metcalf, that wide receiving core. I think that Tua and Hill are going to be money makers all year long. I don't expect that to stop this week. Across the board, looking at Creamy Dutch Gouda, it is a rebound week for Juice. We'll see what happens. We need his team to perform and live up to what they're expected to do. I mean, he's projected 110 pretty much week in, week out. He's going to be favored in pretty much every matchup this year. Is his team going to actually match expectations? Is going to be what we have to determine and see for this week. So let's see. We got Higbee going against SF. I think that they're going to need to establish their run early against San Francisco. I don't see Higbee getting that much wiggle room with that San Francisco linebacking core. Chase, I expect to have a bounce back game. Yeah, and then we got Philadelphia, Minnesota, a great matchup, rematch of last year's quarterfinals playoff game. So we'll see how it plays out. I expect Hurst to continue to ball out. I'm going to go ahead and pick Juice this week. I expect him to have a big bounce back week. I expect his team to actually perform this week.
All right, you're picking Ralph this week.
I am.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Jeremy making that switch from Gino to Jordan Love. It seems like a little bit of an overreaction to me, but they are playing against Detroit in Detroit, and Detroit just played pretty well against Patrick Mahomes. So I could see both sides of that. Tyreek Hill is always in the lineup. DK Metcalf is probably always in your lineup. He's got some rough starts here with, Mixon didn't get the workload that we expected. Rachaad White was just disappointing last week. Goddard goosed. So he's got some questions in his lineup. They both have some players going on Thursday night, which is always fun for us to see a matchup get a quick start.
Always fun.
We'll see if Hurts and
Always
Jamar
fun.
Chase for Ralph's team, if they can have a bounce back game. I see James Conner here listed as questionable. Calf injury. That's a really bad team once again. So we'll see what happens there. And he can throw AJ Dillon in there, so he does have a backup running back there. The Tyler Higbee, he didn't do much last week. 3 targets. He did catch all 3 of them, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Ralph throw Dalton Kincaid in there. Who, he only had 4 targets. He caught all 4 of them, but if he's expecting Josh Allen to have a bounce back game, you would think that Kincaid's going to catch a few extra passes there, possibly go put one in the end zone. And this is a tough matchup. Jeremy has Gainwell out. That's pretty disappointing for him. That was probably who he wanted to play at running back this week. I see he picked up Deion Jackson from Indianapolis, who I dropped. I don't even think their game was over last week when I dropped him. He had 13 attempts for 14 yards and 2 fumbles, I think is what he had. And I was like, get off my team. I can't have this kind of performance
Just
on my
negativity.
team. Just get out of here. Yeah. I was like,
he did catch
this performance,
5 of
how can
6 targets.
Yeah, but what did he end
For a
up with?
whopping
1.5 points,
yards.
1.3 points. Like,
Oh,
how could you ever trust that guy to start him? And I was just like, just get out of here. I can never start you, even over my bad running backs. Just get off. And so it kind of makes me smile a little bit to see Jeremy went and grabbed him. Maybe because Gainwell's out. I would expect Jeremy to throw him on the IR and go pick somebody up. But I am going to go with Ralph as well. I expect Jacobs to have a bounce back game, Hurts and Chase all to have bounce back games. So I think Ralph comes away with a W this week.
Absolutely. And our last matchup, we have Evan going against Nick. Nick, I can't remember the last time I saw Nick's team in last place. I don't know if I've ever seen that. In the decade plus we've been doing this, I really can't recall Nick being in last place.
I remember first season, and
First season, I don't think game?
No, the first season that we had started the league, Nick finished the regular season in last place. Ended up running the table in the consolation bracket and winning the consolation bracket. But he was in last place at the end of the regular season in year 1. But that's the last time. Ever since it was like he put the pieces together while he was playing through the consolation bracket, and he won the championship the next season, and it hasn't looked back.
And that's the reason why we have our league historian. Thank you for that little bit of Gustavo Cup history.
Yep.
Yeah, it should be a good matchup. I think that Nick's team is going to bounce back. Lamar Jackson, and this is another quarterback duel, right? Lamar Jackson versus Burrow. Hopefully, Evan and Nick, even though they've never met, get together and watch that game somewhere. Cincinnati versus Baltimore. We'll see how it plays out. I think that CeeDee Lamb is going to have a big game. I think that it's going to be a battle against the Jets, but I think that Dallas really needs to test out that offense. I know that they blew the Giants out, but that was a huge defensive effort. This week, it's time to really start to test that offense out. I'm excited to see how that game plays out. Barkley against Arizona, horrible defense. I think that Barkley's going to have a big game. Looking across the board to Evan's team, it's got Jay Hill in there, so he's starting Hill.
Yep, Justice Hill, who's one of the running backs in Baltimore now. I know he had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and he wasn't. He just wasn't. I expected him to get those goal line carries, which he did, obviously resulting in the 2 touchdowns. But they were using him all over the field. They were using him out of the backfield as a catcher. They were using him in early downs. I was surprised with the utilization of Justice, but I'm excited to see how that plays out for him. Really young.
I don't think they were using him until J.K. Dobbins went down, and I think everything was going to Dobbins. And when Dobbins went down, they kind of just switched over and gave a mixture to Justice Hill and to Gus Edwards.
Yeah. But if you're Evan, do you consider throwing Richardson out there against Houston?
No. No, I don't.
No. Even though Burrow's playing Baltimore, even though
Houston last year and in game 1 against Baltimore, they don't give up a lot of points to quarterbacks because every team just runs the ball on them. They can't stop any running backs, so every team just runs the ball. So I wouldn't put Anthony Richardson in there over Joe Burrow. I would expect Joe Burrow just like we talked about with Daniel Jones, Baltimore's defense isn't great. They're okay. I mean, maybe they are better this year, and maybe they are a great defense. I don't see it, but I I would expect Joe Burrow to have a bounce back game here. I'm concerned with his receivers. He's got Garrett Wilson, who just lost Rodgers. He's got Zay Jones, who had a big game week 1, but you don't know how that's going to play out with Christian Kirk. And then I don't know how Bijan's only projected for 12 points. That's just insulting.
That's a little bit low. He's getting a little bit of Ricky hazing from the Yahoo adjusters.
Yeah, and I'm expecting this game to be a little bit closer than the game last week. I think they played Carolina, and Carolina just couldn't keep up with them. So I'm expecting Bijan to get more playing time than Algier this week. And I'm expecting them to just keep giving him the ball more and more and more until it's mostly Bijan in there, because the guy's just too electric. Your team is better when he's on the field. So why is he not on the field anymore?
Absolutely agree. And the kid has fresh legs, right?
And he's a rookie with fresh legs. Well, Algier's only a second season, so that's not his legs aren't the tread's not gone off those tires. But then you got Nick, Lamar Jackson, another person you expect to have a bounce back game. CeeDee Lamb, we'll see. They might do the same thing to the Jets that they did to the Giants. The Jets have Zach Wilson out there. They just might destroy them with their defense, and CeeDee Lamb might get nothing again. But
but thing to cue in on here. I was gonna say thing to cue in here. In addition to the Burrow Jackson matchup, we also have Robinson, Algier. Looks like Nick's giving Algier the start, so we'll see how that dual backfield plays out. I think it's going to favor for Evan, but we'll see.
Yeah, he doesn't have Deontay Johnson this week. Well, doubtful, but I mean, the news says he could be out a month, so I don't know how you list him as doubtful if he could be out a month. It sounds like he's out. He doesn't trust DeAndre Swift after, what did he have, 1 point last week? 0.8 points. He had 1 carry for 3 yards. So he doesn't trust DeAndre Swift. So the one I would be looking at, I'd be looking at Puka Nacua.
Yeah.
Who he spent quite a bit of fab. We'll we'll talk about that on the next segment. But I'd be looking at Puka Nacua if to be starting if he doesn't feel comfortable with Algier.
Yep. I'm gonna go ahead and take Nick this week. Who are you taking?
Yeah, I'm taking Nick. There's just a lot of question marks on Evan's team, and I think Nick's team has a big bounce back week.
Absolutely. Awesome. Now let's take a quick look at all of the fab offers, everything that we spent money on this week and the players acquired. Ballek, you want to run through this?
Yeah, let's run it. So we got Nick grabbing Puka Nacua, 22 of his fab on Puka Nacua. He beat out Mishloff, who bid 18, myself, who bid 18, and you, who bid 18. He dropped Sky Moore to make this pickup. Pretty big pickup. Puka Nacua had a big game last week, 15 targets, like 10 or 11 receptions. So makes sense. It's a big move, but makes sense to me. The next highest bid was, or the next highest purchase was Schloff, bid 11 on Kyron Williams, running back for the Rams. Mark bid 9. I bid 5. So I think, Schloff dropped Devon Achane. So running back for a running back there. And Kyron Williams looked good last week. He got a lot of the early work for the Rams until they were winning big, and then they brought in Cam Akers. So, and then next up, I picked up Josh Kelly.
To put so much trust in the Rams.
It is. That's why I didn't go for more on him. Actually, is as I was like, I don't want to hold the whole Rams backfield. That sounds like a terrible decision to make every week. I picked up Joshua Kelly, running back for the Chargers. We talked about him earlier with Eckler possibly not playing this week. Next closest bid was Kyle for 6, then Mark for 3, and then Schloff put in a $0 bid. Next up was I picked up Romeo Doubs for 7. The next closest bid was Nick for 3. And then that was it for this week. I thought there were a couple others where we had Fab spent, but let me go down and double check that. Oh yeah, we do have a couple others where Fab was spent, but there was nobody else that bid on them. So Schloff picked up Hunter Henry for $4. Dropped Dak Prescott. Kyle picked up Jared Goff for $4. I believe he dropped Aaron Rodgers prior to that, and so he had an open roster spot. And then Kyle picked up Gus Edwards for $2, and he dropped Devin Singletary. So
a lot of movement.
Those are the pickups. Oh, I forgot to mention, when I picked up Romeo Doubs, I dropped Jonathan Mingo.
Gotcha. Yeah, one of my favorite things with the FOB is when we see just this huge disparity in the winning offer and then whoever put in the lower offer. We didn't have that much disparity this week. Obviously, we had some high-priced targets. But, like, when I see someone spend $10, $15 in comparison to the next highest bid, it always just tickles me.
Yeah, it's pretty good when you see somebody overspend by like you said, like 10, $15. Sometimes even remember when Eric spent all of his budget in week 1?
Yeah, it's great.
Like and $100 in week 1.
And then he ended up like dropping several of the players he spent a ridiculous amount of money on.
Yeah, it was great.
That was great.
But you got to go big.
Got to go big or go home. Well, yeah. This is week 2 of the Gustavo Cup podcast. Thank you guys all for listening. As Ballek has been saying, please like and subscribe.
Yes, please like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us a comment. And let's close it out. What are you looking forward to this weekend?
This weekend, I am headed to Bakersfield, actually. On Saturday, it is I'm going for a birthday party, 1 day away from the house and the wife, and I'll be back for Sunday football. What are you looking forward to?
All right. I'll be watching the UT game Saturday night. I'm not going to end up making it, I don't think, because I got tickets to the Austin FC game on Sunday. So
nice. Min hooked that up. How's Min doing?
Min's doing great. Yeah, she hooked up the tickets. She's doing great. It was fun to see her. It was great to talk to her. Great to see her. But yeah, she hooked it up with some Austin FC tickets. So I'm excited for the game.
Great. Well, thanks again as always, and we'll see you next week.
Yep. Good luck this week, fellas.